Hey, somebody needs to take a deep breath. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. I thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. The Professional Noticer is sponsored this week by our friends at Tucker ATV. You know, the unbelievable variety of power sport products at Tucker ATV, it's just astounding. Hustler turf equipment, the entire line of Echo power tools, and of course, Tucker ATV carries every make and model of Polaris ATVs. They have the fast kind and the big kind, and they have the faster kind and the bigger kind. And you have to see the showroom. The taxidermy, the antique displays, the indoor porch with a porch swing. Just stop in and meet Shannon and Lisa Tucker. They treat customers like family, which is why folks from 14 states have done business with Tucker ATV. Highway 43 North in Jackson, Alabama. Tucker ATV, the small town business with the national reputation. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on The Professional Noticer. And as you know, we love it when somebody comes to the table with both. Today, we have a guy that you are going to really be interested in. And I think not just interested in what he does. I think you're going to be interested in the guy who was a captain in the Air Force, and he has an academic background with North Carolina State, University of Cincinnati, and Harvard. He spent years in corporate America, and then kind of ran away from it all to do what he really wanted to do, which was to create a distillery. And his distillery was actually named Best Micro Distillery in the United States at an international competition recently. This is Brandon McCraney. He's the founder, CEO, and master blender of Olde Raleigh Distillery in Zebulon, North Carolina. Hey, Brandon, how are you?
I'm doing well, Andy. How you doing? Thank you for having me on.
Man, I appreciate you being here. Now, I'm assuming you're probably in one of your places or in your office or something right now, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it. This is my home office, but also doubles up as a little whiskey vault, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, are you from the North Carolina area? Is that why you came back there to do this?
Yeah. Well, military brat growing up. So my dad was enlisted with the Air Force. So we bounced everywhere. Ended up going to high school in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I ultimately went to NC State, North Carolina State University. And that's located in Raleigh, and just really loved it here. So I knew I was in ROTC. I went into the military, but I knew one day I wanted to come back here, and managed to do that after going through corporate America for a while. I made my way back this way about 14 years ago.
And before we get too far away from this, now you were a captain in the Air Force, and you said as a military brat growing up, your dad was not just in the Air Force. You mentioned he was in the Air Force. Your dad was a Thunderbirds pilot, wasn't he?
Well, he wasn't a pilot. He was the line chief. He ran the show. You've got on the ground, you've got enlisted troops. And so he was the line chief that was his final role there.
Okay, well, he was more important than the Thunderbird pilots. Without your dad, they couldn't have flown.
It was cool to see him at the shows, and you got thousands of people. Like, that's my dad right there.
Yeah, that's very cool. So you ended up back in North Carolina. I'm assuming Zebulon is like a suburb of Raleigh.
Yeah. Exactly. That's where our company is located. Yes. So
okay. So where did the fascination with whiskey come in, other than just being in the Air Force?
I'll say we really didn't grow up with alcohol in our household.
Right.
So my family, and historically, alcohol was not involved with either side of my family. So when I mentioned I want to do this, it was a little bit of culture shock, to say the least. But I started.
Well, before you even announced it, where did this come from? How did you get into this?
So about 15 years ago, I was that guy that had a crazy whiskey collection back before it was like the cool thing to have. And
right.
it just started accumulated different types of whiskey, and I just got really fascinated with how you can have the same bourbon, let's just say, with the same recipe, distilled the same day, but located just a floor above the other, and it just tastes so radically different. And so I just started going down different rabbit holes and accumulating more knowledge and going to different workshops. And it was just a side passion thing that I enjoyed. It never occurred to me to start a company until as I was climbing that corporate ladder and chasing that title I always thought I wanted, that national VP title. The previous company that I was with before I took this leap, I helped, they hired me to help start a division and scale it. And it was with construction and technical type services. And they gave me a lot of freedom to just create and try to figure out how to close deals. And it was very much, it wasn't entrepreneurial, but I would call it intrapreneurial. In that they gave me some guide rails I could maneuver with. But at the end of the day, what I loved about it was as long as you close business, they gave you a lot of freedom. And I was pretty good at that. Fast forward a couple years, finally, was in a position where I was named an interim vice president for the U.S. for that role. And about a month into it, I realized that I'd been chasing a title and I really wasn't I wasn't happy in that role. And so the greatest thing that ever happened to me was a failure. I didn't get the job. They hired an outside hire who was a lot more seasoned than I was, specific to that industry. He was a great fit. And I was a bit relieved. I went, well, I threw my hat in the ring. I said I wanted to do this, but this isn't what, get me. I'm just not excited about it.
Right.
And that was December of 2016. And that's when this bourbon thing had been on the side and been morphing. And you're sitting down over the holidays. And I just looked at my wife. We're watching a holiday movie and drinking a bottle of wine. And I said, honey, I think I want to start a whiskey company. And at the time, we had a good quality of life, and my wife wouldn't surprise. I was expecting her to say, you need to shut up and have your midlife crisis in about 20 years. You got 3 kids, 401k, life is good right now. But she didn't do that. She kind of sipped for a minute, and she said a couple words and said, I think you would be really good at that for, I forget whatever reason. And I had a bit of a freak out moment. Today we use ChatGPT if we need to start searching for things. But back then it was Google. So I Google searched, well, how do I start this whiskey company? And true story, there's a place in Louisville, Kentucky called Moonshine University. And they have this week-long distillers course where you learn about distilling, but more importantly, you learn about the legalities and all the red tape. Because outside of the pharmaceutical industry, this is the most highly regulated in the country.
Right.
So I wanted to be informed. And so came back from the holidays, met my new boss, and he said, look, how about we talk about a succession plan? I'm sure you're kind of upset. I won't be here forever. And I said, you mind if I take a time out and take a week off, about 3 weeks, just to clear my head? And he said, yeah, do whatever you want to do. And this place called, they had 1 seat left in this school for this class. And I just looked up and went, it's got to be meant to be. So I went to Louisville, and about our 3rd day into that course, this is what I knew that I wanted to do. Now, I left thinking naively, well, 90 days, I'll have this thing up and running. And that was far from the case. It was literally 4 years to the week that we opened, and we opened during COVID in 2021.
Great.
Yeah, I've got story after story I could share about that. That was
I'll bet. And so I'm assuming that, you are a certified executive bourbon steward and a certified whiskey sommelier. And so I'm assuming that's not just like an online course you can take. That's something you've got to prove your ability. How do you go about getting certified in those areas?
Well, the same place, Moonshine University, they've got this thing called a Stave and Thief Society where the executive bourbon steward, a lot of it is just book work. You can go there and actually do a flight tasting and all of that. I went there for that. So it was just, you get I would say a lot of book knowledge on the history with bourbon. The whiskey sommelier program, I'd say a lot more intensive. There was multiple levels of that. And I'm actually on their faculty. I teach down there now.
Right.
When I decided this is what I wanted to do, and I'm a blender, well, I took a methodical approach to developing a palate because that's my skill. That's my tools right here. And so spent years going down there and exploring different whiskeys and building up my palate and vocabulary but a lot of note taking and just being very mindful and conscious about whiskey and doing it intentionally. And just over time, I started to build out a pretty solid palate to where then I was blending too and just adding in, just putting in the reps like anybody else watching this. Is how do you get good at something or master something? You put in the reps. So I just try to put in as many reps as I can in terms of creating things. And by putting in the reps, I don't mean getting intoxicated either. There's a big differentiation there. It was all about dissecting whiskey and figuring out how to package different whiskeys together to make them more complex. And so that's what I do now on a daily basis here at Olde Raleigh.
Do you think, I'm sitting here listening to you talk about layer and making the taste complex. And do you think you have some kind of a gift, or do you think that is something that the ordinary person can develop? Because I kind of don't seem to have that. I mean, we'll go out and they'll say, would you like to look at this list? And I was like, or they'll say, would you like this or this? I'll order a drink and say, would you like this kind of, or this? And I'm like, I would like you to think that I could tell the difference, but I really can't.
Well, and in that scenario, do you like it or not like it, right? That's right. Where you start with.
This is good, bad, sweet, bitter. Yeah. I got smoky. I can get smoky, but I can't get all these roots and chocolate and berries and.
Yeah, well, it's just it's developing. Well, what you're talking about is absolutely normal. So, I mean, think about this. You're putting, let's just say, call it 100 proof, 50% alcohol in your mouth. And if you're not used to drinking that, well, you put that in your mouth, your olfactory system is lighting up like no tomorrow, telling your brain, you get that fire, that's going to kill you, keep it out of your body, right? So that's what your brain olfactory system to your brain's programmed to do. And so while that's going on, you're now saying, let's describe what's going on right here. And your brain's like, dude, I already told you, you need to keep that out of your mouth. So that's a perfectly normal response. How you get over that is, first you got to get acclimated to the proof. So, I host people every weekend all over the country. And, some of it is if you're just getting into whiskey, it might be helpful to add some water to drop the proof down a little bit, because that's going to take the microphone of that fire away from the whiskey, the flame, and then that'll give your palate an opportunity to maybe pick up on some of those sweeter notes that you mentioned. And then over time, you start to build up that tolerance. And as you're building up that tolerance, you're also building up a little bit of vocabulary. Like you mentioned sweet. Well, one day that Rolodex of memory is going sweet, sweet. Where did I interact with this before? Caramel. Like for me, a lot of my tasting notes involve trick or treat candy because my Rolodex of memories involved living on military base housing. They packed all of us in enlisted housing tightly in together, but the best time of the year was Halloween, because after about 30 minutes, we're dragging that pillowcase around. So my fond memories are trading candies on the front lawn. And when I think about caramel, which is a very common flavor profile, one of the notes within bourbon, I think about sugar daddies, sugar babies, cowtails, things like that. And so that's my Rolodex of how I describe whiskey. But it accumulated it over time. And now think about my job is to do this. So if you're just sitting around thinking about what's in your mouth all the time, you're going to start building out a broader vocabulary of what it is that you're enjoying.
But I think it's awesome that trick or treat candy has been the basis for the Micro Distillery, the best Micro Distillery in the United States in an international competition. So this is the Olde Raleigh Distillery in Zebulon, North Carolina. Tell me about the award. Did you go in thinking, yeah, we're going to win this?
I submitted that product, a set of products, not even to win an award. I didn't know that was something that you could win. Um, I'm a blender by trade, and it was an international competition. Brandon's in his own little rabbit hole making whiskey. I just wanted to see how I racked and stacked against some of the more prominent blenders over in Scotland. And so their blending is a lot more of a well-known practice in Scotland. And so it was just a how am I doing report card. And unbeknownst to me, we had a product called Old Stogie. It's a bourbon designed to complement a cigar. It's bourbon finished in Armagnac casks imported from estates in France and tiny port casks from estates in Portugal. And so I released, or that product swept every category it could have won at that competition. And again, we were called Best Micro Distillery in the United States. And yeah, it caught us off guard, to say the least. It was very humbling to receive that. That really is what put us on a map from an international perspective. Yeah.
That is awesome. So is your family, everybody cool with what you do now?
I could tell you my mom thought I was crazy. So, because one, we didn't grow up with spirits in our household. And two, she said, you were in the military. You've got this corporate career making great money. You went to Harvard for crying out loud, and you're going to throw it all away just to start a distillery? And I went, yeah, Mom, I'm going to do that. And she went, unbelievable. I'm sure she prayed for me a lot. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
you can take credit for increasing your mother's prayer life.
Well, it did come. Yeah, for sure. And maybe those prayers were delivered. We had our first bottle release fourth week of April in 2021, and it was still during COVID. But it was our first batch of our bourbon released, and we had a 2-hour wait line going down the street for that product. And my mom came just to show some support and help out that day. And thank goodness she did, because I needed it. But at the end of that day, she pulled me aside, and I kind of had a little redemption there. She goes, clearly you're on to something here, Brandon, and you knew what you were doing. So I wish you the best, and I've always have, but I was just scared for you. And that's moms. That's what they do, right? They
Sure. That is awesome. Oh, buddy, how can we help you?
Well, you're helping me right here, right? Giving me a platform to talk about our story and our journey. I'm blessed to be doing what I love every day.
What have you learned that somebody, I mean, right now, there's somebody out here that's hearing your story and they're cocking their head and going, yeah, I'm not really loving what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, what advice do you give to somebody like that? Hey, before you leave, make sure you this, or, hey, after you get out of there, make sure you do that. I mean, what do you have for somebody who's thinking, yeah, I'm 40 and I'm not really happy. And
yeah.
So tell me.
I will say, if you're 40 and you're like, I was the guy always jealous of, that person in middle school that wanted to be a dentist, and they do well in high school, they go to college, and boom, just like a story. And I was not that. It was frustrating to me. But what I've learned in this journey is sometimes your road takes different unexpected turns, but maybe you needed all those turns to give you the skill set to run a company. I needed that. My previous company, helping them start that division and them giving me guardrails and a lot of freedom to figure out how to make decisions and use my time wisely. I needed all of those things. I could not have done this back when I was 25. I didn't know enough about leading people. I didn't know enough about creating culture, the value of that. And so, so I would just say, don't be frustrated if you're in that row. I mean, I have conversations with folks visit throughout the year. They're in a similar thing, but it's okay. Meditate on it. What is that thing you want to do? What are those skills that you have that make you uniquely qualified to be successful at whatever that venture is? Do your homework and just know that it is scary. It's really scary, but that's the beauty about this. We live in the greatest country in the world because we have the ability, if you have an idea and you're willing to take the leap, and you want to create something, you can do that. And not many other countries in the world gives you that opportunity. And so I'm very mindful about that. I feel very blessed about that. And with it, comes heavy as the crown, right? The stress, there's a lot of stress involved with it, but I surround myself with a mastermind group to where other business owners, where I call it, we talk about the struggle every day of, this is what got thrown at me this week, and this is what got thrown at me this week. And we're bouncing things off of each other, but I'm getting different perspectives on how I can solve that solution. So it could be a lonely road, or you can choose to build yourself a tribe around you to help you be successful. And I would encourage you to, if you haven't figured out what the thing is, maybe start identifying your tribe, and they might be able to mentor or guide you to where you're looking to go.
Excellent. Excellent. Buddy, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate it. And want to have all how to connect to you, how to connect with your business, with your businesses, and everything about you. And we'll have it all on the show notes. And everybody, we'll join you and cheering your journey on.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I'd love to connect. And feel free to reach out anytime. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Take care.
Cheers.
I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing the tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Lippert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Corn and sugar for the cast and crew provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by Digit Deploy. In a world where tiny computers think, robots assist, and microsurgery rewrites what is possible with the human body, why stop at healing when you can upgrade? Introducing Digit Deploy, the revolutionary surgically implanted system that turns your fingers into the most useful tools you'll ever own. Need to sign something? Your forefinger smoothly deploys a precision fountain pen in your choice of ink color, of course. Celebrating on the go, your little finger becomes a fully functional corkscrew with drink mixing attachment. From can openers to the tiny flashlight in your pinky finger, each implant is expertly integrated and completely invisible when not in use. It's not science fiction, it's just convenient. With DigiDeploy, your hands don't hold tools, they are the tools. Designed with advanced robotics and refined microsurgical precision, each device folds seamlessly beneath the skin, ready at a moment's notice, but hidden until you need it. DigiDeploy, because the future isn't something you carry, it's something you are.